London on 1458 AM and DAB, smart speaker, mobile app and LaicaRadio.com.
This is Laika Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at 9. At least 151 people have died in the South Korean capital of Seoul after a crush in a crowd on a night many were out to celebrate. Police are now trying to work out exactly why many people pushed forward on a narrow street in an area of the city known for its nightlife. The country's president says it's difficult to express his sadness.
The government will set it as a period of national mourning from today until the post-accident management becomes settled, and will put top priority on the post-accident management and follow-up measures.
Labour and the Lib Dems want an investigation into reports a phone belonging to Liz Truss was hacked in the summer. The Mail on Sunday says it happened during the Conservative leadership contest when she was still Foreign Secretary, but hadn't moved into Downing Street. It's thought suspected Russian agents got access to discussions with foreign officials about the war in Ukraine. Michael Gove is on Rishi Sunak's top team, and he insists cyber safety is an issue the government's well aware of.
What I do know is that the government has very robust protocols in place in order to make sure that individuals are protected, but also that government security and national security.
Russia has said it will immediately suspend a United Nations brokered deal in Ukraine. It's meant 9 million tonnes of grain has been exported and global food costs fell. Russia says it's because Ukrainian forces attacked ships, although that's disputed by Kiev. Manchester City are on top of the Premier League after beating Leicester 1-0. Tottenham fought from 2-0 down to win 3-2 at Bournemouth. Chelsea lost 4-1 at Brighton, while Liverpool suffered a second consecutive defeat, this time a 2-1 home reverse to Leeds. In the Scottish Premiership, Rangers thrashed Aberdeen 4-1, and Hibs up to third after an impressive 3-0 victory over St Mirren. And you might have had a little moment of confusion if you looked at your clock this morning. British summer times ended, so the clocks have gone back by 1 hour.
It's easy to find the perfect package holiday with EasyJet Holidays. Looking for a break in sunny Greece?
Warm.
With a choice of 12 Greek destinations from airports all over the UK.
Getting warmer.
And hotel options to suit any budget.
Found it.
Find your perfect package holiday in Greece. Book now with only £60 per person deposit. Search EasyJet Holidays or visit your local independent travel agent. Travel restrictions and T's and C's apply.
Laika Radio 1458 and Laika Gold 1035, a part of the Laika Group. Laika Radio weather is brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Today's weather: light rain showers and gentle breeze in London and surrounding areas. Top temperature 17 centigrade. Sunset is at 4:37 p.m.
Weather was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com.
Laika Radio.
Laika Radio weather was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Laika Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Laika, London.
Laika Radio.
Good morning and welcome to the 134th edition of Talking Points on Laika Radio with me, Keith Vaz. Thank you, Priyanka, for a great show. Thank you for joining us today, Sunday the 30th of October 2022, a very chilly Sunday morning. I can't believe that this is the last Sunday of the month. And don't forget, British summertime is at an end. The clocks go back at midnight tonight by 1 hour. As we approach the final 2 months of this momentous year, make sure that you take time off from your busy schedules to spend just a few hours with your loved ones. This week's top stories: we have had a total of 2 prime ministers this week, as the former Chancellor Rishi Sunak became the first Indian origin prime minister in British history. You need to have been on Mars to have missed that particular news. This is a big historic moment for the British Indian community. We've now got Kamala Harris as the Vice President in the United States, Leo Varadkar as the Prime Minister in Ireland recently, and he'll be back again very soon under the agreement, and Alberto Costa, whose family hails from Goa. who now is the Prime Minister of Portugal. The United Nations Security Council's two-day meeting in India on counter-terrorism focused on the agendas of dealing with the use of the internet, new payment mechanisms, and the drones that have been set off by terrorists. After the dramatic nail-biting contest between India and Pakistan last Sunday, with India winning the match by 4 wickets, Ireland, of all countries, stunned England after winning by 5 runs, while Zimbabwe defeated Pakistan by 1 run on Thursday. This surely looks like being a World Cup full of surprises. On our Inventor series, we're going to talk about the person who invented mobile phones. Did you know that mobile phones, that item that is so integral to the parts of our lives, was only really invented in the 1980s? Although the technology existed since the 1940s, the first mobile phone, practical use for common people, was invented in 1974 by the Motorola engineer Martin Cooper. Cooper was a great fan of Star Trek, and he was always looking to make sure that the technology in Star Trek was available to everyone. Isn't it interesting how something that is almost like a necessity for us didn't even exist 4 decades ago? What would we do without them? On the program today, my special guest, Sadnam Arora, is the founder and chairperson of the National Indian Students and Alumni Union of the UK, the largest association of Indian origin students and young professionals outside India. Sadnam will be joining us from Harrow and sharing her views on the new PM of the UK and his impact on India-UK relations. From Harrow, we're going to Leicester to speak to Ravish Limbachia, the head of design and creative lead for Vibrant Foods. We'll be talking about the power of effective designing and its role in the world today. And finally, we're going to Winchmore Hill in North London, where I'll be talking to Mahindra Jadeja, the Director of India Operations, for what is going to be our newest airline between India and the UK, Flypop, starting in 2023. This airline will provide connectivity between London and more destinations in India, such as Amritsar and Ahmedabad, and who knows, even Goa. But first, it's time for some music.
बाबू तू बड़ा चेप है कुछ हद से ही ज्यादा दिल थिक है निगोड़ी तेरी कंपनी में हाय मेरी जवानी अनसेफ है बाबू बड़ा चेप है कुछ हद से ही ज्यादा दिल थिक है निगोड़ी तेरी कंपनी में हाय मेरी जवानी अनसेफ है अरे चेप तो हर किस नहीं हम तेरे चाहने वाले हैं तू सब खतरा नहीं हुस्न के हम रखवाले हैं आज बन ठन के सज के धज के मार जरा जम के लटके झटके दिल है तेरे सदके 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 तेरे हर
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I hope you enjoyed the music. Last week, as we know, the Conservative Party chose as their new leader, and therefore the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, the first person of Indian origin ever to be at number 10. What are relations between India and the UK like at the moment? And in particular, they've been described as ambassadors, Indian students who come to study in our country. How have they reacted to these changes and how are they settling in after 2 years of COVID? My next guest on the programme is Sanam Arora, who is the founder and chairperson of the National Indian Students and Alumni Union, UK, NISAU, the largest association of Indian origin students and young professionals outside India. And she's also a co-chair of the India series at King's Business School and the India Conference at the LSE. Let's go over to Harrow and talk to Sanam Arora. Good morning, Sanam.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, recently, very recently, you had an event in Parliament to celebrate the Indian student. Part of that was, of course, about the 75th anniversary of independence. Tell us about what you were doing there and why did you particularly feel Indian students need to be honoured?
Thanks, Keith. It was an incredibly special day, 12th of October at the UK Parliament, where we launched a very, very unique initiative to both celebrate India at 75 as well as the very long history of India-UK educational ties. Everyone from Mahatma Gandhi to Baba Saheb Ambedkar, who was a student at the LSE, to Cornelia Sorabji, the first ever woman to read law at the University of Oxford, to Jawaharlal Nehru, who was a student over at Cambridge studying a century ago Cambridge's Indian society. They were all former Indian students in the UK. That legacy, this insane legacy that we are sat on in the UK of extraordinary contribution by former Indian students in the United Kingdom to India, to UK and the rest of the world is something we must celebrate in this 75 years of India's independence. And so at Parliament recently, we launched a very special initiative to look out for 75 such inspirational youngsters, people who are below the age of 49, who have all been Indian students in the United Kingdom, who have gone on to achieve greatness in their professional field, but also had a significant impact on society. We want to bring 75 such stories out to celebrate this very unique history of student exchange between our two great countries.
Now, there's been a bit of a break because of COVID, but the number of Indian students has really gone up recently, especially this year. I mean, I think we've got around 120,000 students from India in the UK. We were worried, of course, those of us from Britain, that Indian students might decide to go to Australia or America when the COVID pandemic was over, but they certainly seem to be coming back to the UK. Do you get that sense as well, that we're over the worst and it's back to where it was before?
It's a complicated one, Keith. There have been a number of factors which have led to this tremendous, almost 6x rise in the number of Indian students choosing to come to the UK. The biggest impact has been, interestingly, as a result of COVID, what's happened is that Australia and Canada, two of our biggest competitors for Indian students, actually shut their borders down and were really quite negative towards Indian students during much of that COVID period, whereas in the UK here, we were far more open, far more welcoming. We had some issues, sure, with, the India being on the red travel list and mandatory quarantine charges and whatnot. But on the whole, not only did we benefit from our competitors having a negative policy towards Indian students due to COVID at that time, but we also benefited from the newly reintroduced graduate route visa, which we at the NISAU actually campaigned for 7 long years. That gives Indian students and all international students a period of 2 to 3 years to stay back in the UK, which has been for the longest of times the number one demand for most international students, and particularly for Indian students. They like to get some work experience as a result of studying abroad, and eventually most people do go back and contribute to the nation building process in India. And so we've benefited from a range of these macroeconomic situations, which has meant that despite COVID, we've had this extraordinary rise in the numbers of Indians choosing to come to the UK. I think we've now overtaken the Chinese to be number one. But does that mean that we can allow complacency to take over? There are concerns in the higher education sector, particularly with some of the comments that were made by the Home Secretary around how Indians are overstaying their visas, some concerns she relayed around this very graduate route that I spoke about. So I think that there are fears in the higher education sector and certainly among some students around that.
This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Sanam Arora, who is the founder and chairperson of the National Indian Students and Alumni Union UK, NISAU. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the election of the first British Hindu Prime Minister. Join us after the break.
The one thing COVID did give us, digital transformation. If you're serious about digital growth and would like a tactical approach to your digital marketing, then remember the name Harty Hanks. With over 20 years experience and a proven track record, we have the talent and know-how to deliver online success. Harty Hanks, experts in consultancy, branding, design, e-commerce, search and social. Call Harty Hanks today on 020 8827 1600 or visit hhdigital.uk. Harty Hanks, your partners for digital success.
Grace Entertainment presents the Rewind Tour, featuring 90s superstar singers Kumar Sanu, Alka Yagnik and Udit Narayan. 28th of October, Utility Arena, Birmingham. 29th of October, First Direct Arena, Leeds. And 30th of October, The Over Arena, Wembley. Tickets available from Ticket Factory, Ticketmaster, AXS and Videorama. Powered by Dairy Valley, exclusive radio partner, Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
The first time you made Kashmiri pulao and gave Ma a surprise. Remember the look in her eyes? That's why we do it. After years when you tried that Hyderabadi chicken biryani and it reminded you of Nani, that's why we do it. When you come back home after a long day, craving chawal dal with desi ghee, to see your face light up with glee, that's why we do it.
Elevate your feasts with Tilda this festive season. Microwave food containers.
Bollywood's iconic film, A Disco Dancer, comes alive on stage.
I am a disco dancer.
Take yourself back to the disco era of the 80s with live singing, retro costumes, elaborate dance sequences and English dialogues. November 16th to the 20th at Sadler's Wells Theatre, London. Book your tickets now at sadlerswells.com. Exclusive radio partner, Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
Who will beat Big Boss at his own game? Watch Big Boss every night at 9:30 p.m. only on Colours TV.
नमस्ते, मैं डॉक्टर सूद हूं। अपने शरीर में अगर आपको कुछ ठीक नहीं लगे तो हमें बताइए। कैंसर की चिंता से परेशान मत होइए। जांच कराना आपके मन को शांत कर सकता है। पता न करने तक आप कैंसर की संभावना दूर नहीं कर सकते। आपका NHS आपको देखना चाहता है। अपने GP practice से संपर्क कीजिए।
11plusteacher.co.uk offers 11 plus tuitions and 11 plus mock exams, face-to-face and online. WhatsApp 07835 929 287 or visit 11plusteacher.co.uk.
Missed a show on Leica Radio? Listen back or listen live via the new Leica Radio mobile app. Download it today and listen wherever you are. The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Sanam Arora, the founder and chairperson of the National Indian Students and Alumni Unions UK. Sanam, Rishi Sunak's election, it's got headlines in this country, of course, because he's the third Prime Minister we've had in as many months, so it's going to be a big deal here. But it was also a very big deal in India. Do you think that his arrival will further strengthen relations between our two countries? Or do you think, in a sense, it's going to be slightly more difficult because he's of Indian origin, if he does anything with India, people will maybe suspect it's an Indian connection rather than British India? What do you think? Obviously, it's a positive thing, but do you think he will be a little bit more cautious than perhaps a non-Indian?
It's a brilliant question, Keith, because I actually think that sometimes, and this may be unpopular opinion, but I feel that sometimes some politicians feel, not just Indians, but maybe of other origins as well, feel like they need to make a point about not being from that particular country to address exactly that concern that you have outlined. So I think there may be some of that, but on the whole, I see Rishi as being a really balanced and rational and quite a stable, hopefully, Prime Minister. And we saw that rationality through the summer where he refused to bow down to popular sentiment, even if it eventually cost the leadership election to him. And the good thing that I have noticed about Rishi is that he's perhaps one of the only Prime Ministers now, but Indian origin ministers in the recent past who have spoken about the contemporary India and highlighted how there is a lack of understanding about what contemporary India is all about and what that partnership of equals, as he has said on multiple occasions, needs to look like, with knowledge and science perhaps at the core of that partnership. So I do have a lot of hope that despite what popular sentiment might dictate and despite what critics might say, that Rishi will drive a partnership of equals between the two countries and hopefully that, there will be a free trade agreement that's back on track, despite the Home Secretary's comments. So I do hope for a far better relationship that's more equal between both countries. But at the same time, I think there's almost too much euphoria as well. I mean, there is a sense that Rishi has unleashed a spirit of aspiration in the country amongst people of all kinds, and I do hope that with Rishi's elevation to Prime Minister, every young person, regardless of color, belief, ethnicity or gender, sort of looks at Rishi and says, well, if Rishi can, so can I. So I think that definitely transcends all boundaries. But I think on the India front, I do hope that there will be movement, but I don't think we should expect miracles overnight.
But also there's a lot of pressure on young Indian students now, because parents will not just be saying, I want you to be a doctor or a doctor. They'll probably turn around to their children and say, well, look, the Sunak's son became Prime Minister. What are you doing?
I have seen so many memes circulating on saying exactly that. So, and in my own house, my mother may have made a comment, "Dekho, look at Sunak, you do something too." So,
you do the dishes, she'll probably say to you. Final question on what's happening kind of worldwide and the position of India. Obviously, you are the founder and chairperson of the National Indian Students, an alumni union. When you first founded this organisation, we know that there are Indian student organisations in every university, but they're usually the overseas students, aren't they? This was something different. This was a new organisation that dealt also with the alumni, people who'd been through the system. Do you think that the changes in the rules on post-study work have encouraged more Indian students to stay on now? Do you think that that has been helpful?
Absolutely. Having a period of a few years of post-study work where students can actually, get the global work experience they're so keen to do, be able to set themselves apart in the labour market with that global work experience is actually, when an Indian student decides to choose to go abroad, they are thinking of it not just from the point of view of an education abroad, but really education as part of a wider offer of work experience and the ability to upskill themselves and become global citizens. So I think in that sense, the reason we've seen numbers really get from 30,000 over the last decade at their lowest, I think, to about 120,000 now is because of this post-study work visa. So a lot more students are choosing to come to the UK and stay on in the UK to get that 2 to 3 year post-study work experience. But what we don't know yet is how successful that is being in terms of converting into outcomes of employability. That data will hopefully start to come out soon. But, I know for a fact that this has been the number one demand for students and, we're very, very pleased with this post-study work offer.
Sanam Arora, it's been a pleasure, as usual, talking to you about these subjects. We always ask our guests to choose a song that means something special to them and to dedicate it to someone special. Obviously, you don't want to dedicate it to all the Indian students in Britain because that's 120,000. Which song would you like us to play and who would you like to dedicate it to?
I would request you to please play Rang De Basanti from the movie Rang De Basanti. And I dedicate it really to not just all the students, but to this victory of aspiration and in this country of diversity and inclusion in this historic week that we see our first British Indian Prime Minister.
Sanam Arora, as always, lovely to talk to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Keith, thank you for having me on the program and best wishes to the listeners of Leica Radio.
Let's hear your song.
थोड़ी सी धोखने वाली धक 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 सांसें जिनमें हो जुनू जुनू वो बूंदें लाल लहू की ये सब तू मिला मिला ले फिर रंग तू खिला खिला ले ये सब तू मिला मिला ले फिर रंग तू खिला खिला ले और मोह तू रंग दे बसंती यारा मोह तू रंग दे बसंती मोह 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 रंग दे बसंती बसंती रंग दे बसंती मोह रंग दे बसंती बसंती रंग दे बसंती सपने रंग दे अपने रंग दे खुशियां रंग दे गम भी रंग दे नस्लें रंग दे फसलें रंग दे धड़कन रंग दे सरगम रंग दे सूरत रंग दे दर्पण मोह मोह तू रंग दे बसंती यारा मोह तू रंग दे बसंती थोड़ी सी धूल मेरी धरती की मेरे वतन की थोड़ी सी धूल मेरी धरती की मेरे वतन की थोड़ी सी खुशबू बारारी से मस्त पवन की थोड़ी सी धोंकने वाली धक 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 सांसें जिनमें हो जुनू जुनू वो बूंदें लाल लहू की ये सब तू मिला मिला ले फिर रंग तू खिला खिला ले ये सब तू मिला मिला ले फिर रंग तू खिला खिला ले और मोह तू रंग दे बसंती यारा मोह तू रंग दे बसंती
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. Good graphics tend to really get your attention, whether it's clothes or other designs. Let's talk to the head of design and creative lead of one of our biggest food companies, Vibrant Foods. Our next guest on the programme is Ravish Limbachia, who was born in Preston in Lancashire, where he spent most of his early life with his extended family before coming to Leicester in 2016. He graduated with BA Honours in Graphic Design from the University of Central Lancashire, where he met his wife, Beena. They were married in 2000 and he got his first job as a junior designer. He's now the head of design and creative lead for Vibrant Foods. Good morning, Ravish Limbachia.
Good morning, Keith. Thanks for having me on the show.
Now, we've obviously had the Diwali festival, and a company like yours must be doing good business during Diwali. Do you find that people eat more during Diwali than they do at other times?
Of course. I mean, all families are getting together. It's a time of celebration, and the brands, obviously, under the Vibrant Group, obviously provide the ingredients and snacks which all the families do hopefully enjoy in moderation, should I say, over the festive period.
In designing your packaging, in order to get people to obviously buy more during Diwali, are there any particular themes that you might put out to the public to get them interested?
I mean, the basic themes we follow on is celebration. It's bringing our sort of South Asian food, which we offer under the brands, to the consumers. And a lot of the brands under the Vibrant name, they're all natural products, which obviously are healthier for you. And together, once the families are celebrating and enjoying the snacks, the cooks in the kitchen, obviously using our ingredients, etc., to rustle up feasts, should I say, as to meals, but feasts for all to enjoy.
Now, to design is quite a complicated task, isn't it? You're the head of design of a big company, Vibrant Foods. Mm-hmm. When do you know that you've got the image that you actually want? When do you know that you've really got it?
I mean, there's a process involved here, because just one of the main things is the sort of brand values for each of the brands, and they're all different. But it's something I've always followed is what you're trying to say and who you're trying to say to. So specific brands, their messaging is going to be slightly different. It's the audience that you're actually speaking to, whether it's cooks that have obviously come through generations. So there's the first generation cooks, and then you've got an audience specifically for that. And then one of the other brands under the banner is for the new cooks of the world, the next generation, whether it's the second, third and fourth. So as far as sort of design's concerned, you've got to kind of make something that's got to shout off the shelf, but together hold the sort of brand value, which we've obviously had over decades, basically, because they're all household names under the Vibrant brands.
This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Ravish Limbachia, the head of design and creative lead for Vibrant Foods. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to ask him about his favourite adverts and to ask him to choose a song for us so that we can play this Diwali. Join us after the break.
जिवें नहीं चन्न चढ़दाया ते मेरा दिल खड़े जे पानी वरगाया चुरा लईए तू लाली शाम तो कुड़िए नशीले नैन बड़े ने जाम तो कुड़िए बचा ले जान निकबरू चांद मरदाया सहर वांगू नी हड्डी इश्क वड़दाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया गबरू याद करदाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया It's only you that can save me Only you that I do need Only love that it could be Give me all I ever need You that can save me Only you that I do need Only love that it could be Give me all I ever need नी रेशमी जुल्फां तो खुशबू सौ गुलाबां दी मुकम्मल हूर तू कुड़िए तेरे पागल ते ख्वाबां दी नशा तेरा हिलतिया ना करा की गल शराबां दी कुड़े तू खूबसूरत शायरी लगदी किताबां दी तू मेरी रूह तेरे तो काला बरदाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया तेरा मुखड़ा जिवें नी चन्न चढ़दाया
Leica Radio.
Flight updates are brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Let's go for a flight update. All flights are as scheduled, but please check with your flight operators before heading to the airport.
Flight flight updates were brought to you by TravelUp.com. Lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com. Call 0207 580 5000.
Leica Radio.
Traffic and travel.
I'm Michael Page. The M4 remains closed until tomorrow morning, both ways between junction 5 for Langley and 6 for Slough and Windsor for the Highways England works this weekend. Heading into Heathrow Airport, there's still a queue on the M4 Heathrow Spur, and it's also looking busy on the M4 heading into town, approaching the race section between junctions 3 and 1, where it's stood down to one lane for ongoing works. And heading out of town on the A4 Great West Road, approaching the Sutton Court Road junction in Chiswick, it's queuing because of the roadworks. It's almost back to the Hogarth roundabout. And on the trains, London-bound Southern and Thameslink services have delays of up to an hour because of an earlier broken down train between Gatwick Airport and East Croydon. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Good evening, madam. Just checking in.
No, John, I'm not checking in. I live here.
Buy any Brook & Wild mattress and you may start to believe you live in a 5-star hotel. Layers of luxury in either soft, medium or firm. And right now, get 50% off when you spend £500 or more.
Room service.
Oh, please.
Visit brookandwild.com. Offer ends soon.
This is Leica Radio.
Try Caratino Better Ghee, the healthier, low-cost, cholesterol-free butter ghee alternative. Caratino Better Ghee, available at Tesco, Asda, Morrison's and local grocery stores.
Who will beat Big Boss at his own game? Watch Big Boss every night at 9:30 p.m. only on Colours TV.
Bollywood's iconic film, A Disco Dancer, comes alive on stage.
I am a disco dancer.
Take yourself back to the disco era of the 80s with live singing, retro costumes, elaborate dance sequences and English dialogues. November 16th to the 20th at Sadler's Wells Theatre, London. Book your tickets now at sadlerswells.com. Exclusive radio partner, Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
सब जरूरतों में साथ निभाए जैसे
सेटको माइक्रोवेव फूड कंटेनर्स
हर मौके पर काम ये आए घर घर खुशियां लाए
जहां जिंदगी वहां सेटको माइक्रोवेव फूड कंटेनर्स
Anuj Chopra Foundation proudly presents from Indian TV's musical talent shows two sensational singers, Nachiket Lele and Priyanshi Srivastav, live in concert accompanied by Bollywood band. Don't miss out on this one-night only event, Sunday 13th of November at the Queen's Theatre in Romford. For box office, call 01708 443 333 or visit queens-theatre.co.uk. Tickets £40. The show starts at 6 p.m.
नमस्ते, मैं डॉक्टर सूद हूं। अपने शरीर में अगर आपको कुछ ठीक नहीं लगे तो हमें बताइए। कैंसर की चिंता से परेशान मत होइए। जांच कराना आपके मन को शांत कर सकता है। पता न करने तक आप कैंसर की संभावना दूर नहीं कर सकते। आपका NHS आपको देखना चाहता है। अपने GP प्रैक्टिस से संपर्क कीजिए।
Samara Events UK presents the 7th Asian Food and Restaurant Awards International. Official catering partners Spice Village. Food Awards taking place on Monday the 5th of December at Montcalm Hotel, Marble Arch, London. Tea partners Skarak Chai. Nominate your favourite restaurants and food brands. Call 07850 742 143. The 7th Asian Food and Restaurant Awards International. Media partners Dunia TV, B4U Movies, B4U Music, radio partners Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio with my special guest, Ravish Limbachia, who's the head of design and creative lead at Vibrant Foods. I should ask you, before we close, Ravish, you obviously look at the competition, not just people selling foods, but generally speaking. I often get to look at adverts, especially when I'm in London, the tube like this morning coming to Canary Wharf, and I go, God, that's a good advert. And in a real sense, less is more. If you have the simplest message, okay, and the simplest slogan, it sticks with you, doesn't it? In terms of the competitors, not in foods, but in anything else, what's your favourite advert? What's the one that you admire the most and why?
I think when it comes down to it, and being a designer, Keith, I think the advert that sort of sticks in my mind, and it's a brand, should I say, is Apple. I obviously use all Apple devices, the phone, the iMac, the iPad, everything I have is Apple, and it's what helps me do my job. Now, obviously, it's what I see on the advert. What sticks out to me is obviously the design element of things. It's so slick, the way they portray the actual product, the way they film it, it's all pristine, and it's obviously puts out that message that they are an elite and one of the best products out there that you could buy, and that's what sticks in my mind. Is
and of course one of the biggest companies in the world, so they can afford to to pay so much money. I think the car adverts in particular are really well put together, aren't they?
Of course,
they are.
Of course.
They're very visual. I mean, if you sit in one of those cars watching an advert, you think you're flying to the moon. Now, we always ask our guests to choose a song. It's easy for you because you were part of the band. What was your band called, and why did you stop playing in this band? Was it after you got married?
It started when I was 12 years old, basically. I've always been into music. I'm a percussionist. So I play tabla, dolak, the dole, and then went into, and all self-taught, and then on obviously the 5-piece drum kit. But then our guru, as I call him, got a few of us together and put the sort of youngest band in the UK, I could say, at that time. And we've performed to crowds from 50 to 10,000 in big melas. But we progressed that for years, and we got to a national level. We also got signed by a label. But unfortunately, the music that we produced is kind of still sat on the shelf because the sort of industry took a hit when illegal downloads, etc., happened and hit the market. But I've still got a love for music. I still play. My kids obviously enjoy music and play instruments. So yeah, I still enjoy it, and music is obviously a part of life.
Ravish Limbachia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been very interesting. It's a profession that we've not really looked at in the past, but designing that creativity that attracts us to products is something that is, of course, fascinating. We always ask our guests to choose a special song that means something special to them and dedicated to someone special. Which song would you like to choose? Obviously not one of your own from your band, but which song would you like to choose, and who would you like to dedicate it to?
I'd like to dedicate this to my lovely wife, Beena, and the songs Dheere Dheere Se from the film Aashiqui.
Ravish Limbachia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Keith, for having me on the program, and my best wishes to all the listeners of Leica Radio.
Let's hear your song.
धीरे धीरे से मेरी जिंदगी में आना, धीरे धीरे से दिल को चुराना, तुमसे प्यार हमें है कितना जाने जाना, तुमसे मिलकर तुमको है बताना। कोई नाम नहीं बन गया हूँ मैं तेरा दीवाना धीरे धीरे से दिल को चुराना
धीरे धीरे से मेरी जिंदगी में आना धीरे धीरे से दिल को चुराना मुझको कितना तड़पाया फिर भी तेरी हर एक अदा पे प्यार आया आजा आजा अब कैसा शर्माना धीरे धीरे से दिल को चुराना जाने जाना तुमसे मिलकर तुमको है बताना धीरे धीरे से मेरी जिंदगी में आना
धीरे धीरे से दिल को चुराना
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
Mom, have you bought some of those delicious noodles? You mean Coca, the king of noodles? Coca means delicious. Variety of flavors available in Coca packet, Coca cup and Coca bowl noodles. Suitable for vegetarians and halal approved. The king of noodles, Coca noodles, packets, cups and bowls, now available everywhere in the UK.
पब्लिक की जोरदार डिमांड पर मोस्ट रोमांटिक इवनिंग इज बैक कड़क चाय पेश करते हैं इश्क करो एन इवनिंग ऑफ गजल्स बाय तौसीफ अख्तर संडे 13 नवंबर को हेज के बैक थिएटर में पावर्ड बाय बिफोर यू म्यूजिक टिकट्स फ्रॉम £15 फॉर सीट्स बुकिंग प्लीज विजिट backtheatre.org.uk और कॉल 07850742143 टीवी पार्टनर्स बिफोर यू मूवीज रेडियो पार्टनर लाइका रेडियो एंड लाइका गोल्ड इश्क करो बाय तौसीफ अख्तर ब्रॉट टू यू बाय समारा इवेंट्स UK.
Hasu World now provides flight tickets to all the destinations as well as fit-to-fly RT-PCR tests. Visit hasuworld.com or call 0300 124 6500 for exclusive flight rates. ATOL protected.
This is a message for every household in the UK. Everyone is entitled to government help with the cost of living. At gov.uk/help for households, you'll find over 40 different support schemes in one place. From help with energy bills to childcare costs, housing, transport, and more. Help is available now for every household. See what you're eligible for at gov.uk/help for households.
White Hill Studios लैके आए ने अखियां दे दंगे ते प्यार दे रंगां च रंगे मक्खन सिंह दी रोमांटिक कॉमेडी लव स्टोरी ओए मखना
पिछले दिनों तो तक रहा है चेहरा खोले नंबर बोली ताड़ा ओ मैं ट्रू कलर ते झाड़ के ताड़ा ना चेक करना है
वधिया ट्राई है पर किसे होर कुड़ी ते मारी
ओए मखना स्टारिंग एमी विर्क तानिया गुग्गू गिल एंड सिद्धिका शर्मा ओए मखना 4 नवंबर तो तुहाडे नजदीकी सिनेमा घरां च For more info visit whitehillstudios.com.
Haldiram wishes you a very happy Diwali and brings you the most loved Indian sweets which are freshly made in UK. Now order your favorite Haldiram products online only on haldiramuk.com. Also available at your local Asian store at super special prices.
The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Like a Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. Let's go now to my final guest. There are over 5,000 airlines with official codes given by the International Carriers Association. The world's largest airline by fleet size and passengers is American Airlines, which unbelievably carries 200 million passengers every year. But there's now a new kid on the block, especially for those of us who like going back to the motherland. My final guest is Mahindra Jadeja. He's a director of India operation for the new airline, which will start from London to India in 2023. The initial target is to provide air services between our extensive communities in the two countries, but especially flying to Amritsar in Punjab and Ahmedabad in the Gujarat. Let's go and talk to Mahindra Jadeja. Good morning, Mahindra.
Good morning, Keith, and happy Diwali to you from all of us and to you and the listeners.
And to you too. Mahindra, you're planning to open the new budget airline, FlyPop, at the beginning of the new year. Why have you chosen Amritsar and Ahmedabad and not, for example, Mumbai or Delhi?
Right. FlyPop is a low-cost airline designed specially for Indian diaspora living in UK. As such, we recognize that not everyone lives in Delhi or Mumbai. And in fact, these airports are so big and so expensive that the airfare to those destinations means huge cost to the British Asian in terms of inflated air prices. We know that 1.6 million Indian diaspora lives in UK, and the two bigger chunks are Punjabi and Gujarati. And the both has tier 2 cities of India, and that is a cost-effective to our passengers.
Now, how long does it take to establish an airline like this? Obviously, you have to have investors. You've got to buy the aircraft. You've got to get the routes agreed between the various civil aviation authorities. Is it a very long process from the time that you all decided to do this?
It is a very, very long process, Kate. The British Civil Aviation Authority is the most stringent and difficult regulatory body in the world. This is because they put the passenger safety and regulation above the all else. So the process to achieve an air operator certificate is the lengthiest and most complicated. It takes years. We have been working towards for more than 7 years, doing in a correct way, not cutting the corner, so that we ensure that our aircraft and operations are best of our customers. It takes money and solid management, experience, personal and good training. And we wanted to strive both to service to the best. So we are working closely with the CAA to ensure we are the best of the best.
Now, I was a bit disappointed, as I think are many of our listeners, at the sudden ending of Jet Airways. We were a very, very keen supporters, members of the Jet fan club. We've now, of course, got Air India, and there are other airlines that fly to India, such as British Airways and Virgin. Are you planning any other destinations? Because, of course, being originally, at least my family being originally from Goa, it would be nice to know that Goa was added to your list, as well as Amritsar, Ahmedabad. What about Goa, Bangalore and Chennai?
Well, we are looking at the many destinations across the India and South Asia, and our other ambitious growth plan is to fly multiple destinations, including Ahmedabad, Amritsar, Chandigarh, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Goa, and other destinations which are tier 2 cities, not tier 1 city. Unfortunately, we are not going to concentrate on the big city, what you mentioned.
Well, that is fantastic news. After the torrid time the airline industry has had over the last 2.5 years, and also for passengers, the price of a ticket to India has gone up dramatically. Correct. I think everyone looks forward to 2023 and the arrival of Flypop. Mahendra Jadeja, thank you so much for joining us and the best of luck for your endeavours. We look forward to having you on Laika on the day that you officially launch your airline.
Thank you, Keith, for having me there. But Keith, one thing which is I wanted to, allude to that both government is an e-visa, and e-visa both countries should do about it. We're talking about the free trade agreement, but unfortunately, until you don't get the ease of the visa, then it's difficult for any airline and the passenger to succeed the way we wanted to.
Mahendra, you have actually said something that's very close to my heart. I am a firm supporter of e-visas, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Keith, for having me on in a program, and best wishes to you and the listener of Laika Radio. Thank you.
गोरे गोरे रंगी उत्ते कालियां ऐनकां नचदी सी मेरे नाल तू ओ कोका तार गया दिल हार गया नी लुटिया अज ते यार कुड़ी दी चुन्नी काली लहंगे वाली पीती विच अख मार गया कोका तार गया दिल हार गया नी लुटिया अज ते यार कुड़ी दी चुन्नी काली लहंगे वाली पीती विच अख मार गया नी नचते तेनू स्माइल की देती तोते मुंडिया दिल तेरा ठुमका कुड़ी है झुमका कुड़ी है जट दा सीना ठार गया नी कोका तार गया दिल हार गया नी लुटिया अज ते यार कुड़ी दी चुन्नी काली लहंगे वाली पीती विच अख मार गया नी फटिया सी ना मिली तू मैनू सौण महीने छड्ड दे नक मूंह वटना कुड़िया आके मेरे लग जा सीने एटम बम नी फटिया सी ना मिली तू मैनू सौण महीने छड्ड दे नक मूंह वटना कुड़िया आके मेरे लग जा सीने गजरा नैनी कजला हीरे दिल ते करके वार गया नी कोका तार गया दिल हार गया नी लुटिया अज ते यार कुड़ी दी चुन्नी काली लहंगे वाली पीती विच अख मार गया तार गया दिल हार गया नी लुटिया अज ते यार कुड़ी दी चुन्नी काली लहंगे वाली पीती विच अख मार गया नी तार गया नी अख मार गया नी London's biggest Asian hit Laika Radio.
Time's up for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's program. My thanks to Sanam Arora, Ravish Limbachia, and Mahendra Jadeja. Special thanks to my researcher Jemit, producer Rena, and editor Adam. To end today's program, we'll be listening to Pasuri with more than 424 million viewers on YouTube. As the India and Pakistan cricket match ended in Melbourne in Australia, videos of both Indian and Pakistani fans went viral when they forgot their rivalries and enjoyed this beautiful song together. Please stay tuned to listen to the wonderful Sheena, who follows the news at 10 on Laika Radio, Britain's greatest Asian radio station. This has been Talking Points on Laika Radio with Keith Vaz, broadcasting from London. I hope you have a great Sunday.
आना सी ओ नहीं आया दिल बांग बांग मेरा टकराया कागा बोल के दस जावे मामा क्यों दी चूरी नू रावा च बाबा च ओनू लुकावा कोई मैनू ना रोके मेरे ढोल जुदाइया दी तेनू खबर किवें होवे आ जाए दिल तेरा पूरा भी ना होवे आ बड़िया बनाइया दी गल बात किवें होवे आ जाए दिल तेरा पूरा भी मेरे